Um, Hello, everyone that's watching us. This is the first talk of our student-organized series called In Progress. It's a series on reuse and transformation in contemporary building culture. And today we're reaching out from TU Delft to Antwerp as Bovenbouw is here with us this afternoon. We're introducing Wim Boesten, the project architect from Bovenbouw. And a warm welcome and greetings from our sides to you. We will give a short introduction on Bovenbouw as an office. It's a young Belgium office based in Antwerp, and it's led by Dirk Somers. Under the pretext of living the exotic every day, Bovenbouw has been working for 8 years on projects like housing, schools, offices, and public buildings. And today Wim Boesten will take us to Brussels and speak about the pressing subject of transformation. We're going to present one project currently in progress, the Royale Belge in Brussels. And it's a collaboration with Caruso St. John and DDS Plus. And we're all very curious to hear what it is about. So Wim, we hand it over to you. And thank you already for coming and joining us today.
All right, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'll start sharing my screen. Voilà. So yeah, the Royale Belge. It's a building from the 69. I think they started building, built by Dufault and Stapels to a French and a Belgian architect. It was a competition we attended in the end of 2019 against 3 other offices. A very short competition. I think we worked only for like 5 weeks on it, which we luckily won. I'll first tell a bit about the existing building. It's located like this red dot here, really in the southeast corner of Brussels. This is the Vijfhoek, for you who know Brussels a little bit. So that's the center. Zaventem here in the top right corner. So it's quite far from the city center, and it's really on the edge of the city. So this brown mass here is it's Soniawoud, this huge forest which goes on quite a bit. And you can recognize it here a little bit. This street is called the Boulevard du Souverain, the Vorstlaan. That's a street going into the Louisa-Laan, the fancy shopping street as well. But along this Vorstlaan, you can find a lot of embassies. And also, well, so this is a bit further up close. Soniawoud, here's the building we're working on today. On this Vorstlaan, you'll also find some more interesting office buildings from the same era. So, for instance, the Glaverbel building by Renaat Braam and Jacques Main from about the same era, and the CBR building from Konstantin Brodsky, which is now co-working and offices, also recently renovated. Going through it, yeah, the building itself was the head office of the Royale Belge insurance company. Later it got acquired by AXA, and then it became the AXA head office. This is a picture of right after it was initially realized. So there's we call it the podium, 85 by 85 meter 2-layer podium with then this intermediate level where you can find the former restaurant. And then there's 8 levels of office tower with 2, we call it executive levels at the top, which are a bit set back. The building is surrounded by water. This typical modernist feature of a building that's reflected in water. The building is heavily. Well, first, no, I'm gonna take you to a little tour through the building. So here another view from ground floor level, where you can see this podium and then the tower in this specific cross shape. Here on the right, you can see this former restaurant. I think it's easiest to explain the building by the section. So the landscape of the building around the building is it goes up a little bit. So what you see here on the right is 3 levels of parking, and then 1 higher level of parking. This is already the new program, but it's to show you how much of the building is actually underground and not visible. Yeah, so this former restaurant here, actually it's again on the Maaiveld level with the surroundings. Maybe a tour of the building. So this is what you will see when you enter the building from the front entrance hall. There's a lot of marble in the building, 8,000 square meters. We discovered in an old summary. Entrance hall is really made to impress. Marble, these louvers with lights in them. Also very interesting that the ventilation is like integrated into columns. So these vertical lines you see here is ventilation. Also the horizontal lines here, that's all ventilation. And then this huge escalator. This was actually the main entrance for the employees, who were then sent quickly down to be out of sight. Then further on in the building, this is also still in the podium. You have this beautiful hanging stair, which was quite a battle to keep. Right now it's actually demolished, but we're gonna put it back again in a different location in the building. So we're really happy that it's retained, because it's super nicely detailed. And then, in a way, the most spectacular floor of the existing building is the former restaurant. So there's this lower part with this, the triangular structural ceiling. Each column here has a roof light. It's also super interesting is that there's ventilation integrated into this ceiling. So there's this ducts and everything cast into the beams of this ceiling. Anyway, and this is actually an area on the left. It's below the main tower. Lot of structure. The structure of the building is a bit irrational in a way, because there's these huge columns that carry these even bigger beams, 2 meter high in concrete, that are then penetrated again by steel beams, which then have actually quite light columns that carry the whole tower. Yeah. And then further on into the building, the office tower. The office tower is actually in proportion, it's a relatively small part of the building. Office floors all look pretty much the same back then. So this is a typical view you have there. And then there's on top the more specific executive levels. These are, it's a pity they were demolished, these original interiors. So when AXA took over in the 90s, they took out all this original interior. There's like this Jules Wabbes lights. All these walls were already gone when we came across the building in 2017. Also, this desk is Jules Wabbes. It's a name will come up again later on in the project. When we were designing, we really looked not only at this building and then what was already there, but also really looked a lot at contemporaries of this building. and one of the main sources of inspiration was Saarinen, and that's for a very specific reason, because the original design was heavily inspired by Saarinen. This is a nice detail of the existing staircase. We had to rely a lot on archive materials. It was a really very rich source of inspiration. I was gonna go here quickly first. So this is the John Deere headquarters in Illinois. Apparently the original architects visited this building. And it's heavily inspired the new design. So you can see the reflection of the water, but also the typical construction details where the structure doubles. It's almost like a woodwork detail that you see a lot in this John Deere Center, and you see it also in the building in Brussels a lot. Yeah, this is an original sketch. I think it's before they even handed in the permits. They could really draw back then. So anyway, then we're in December 19. This is another picture of the outside of this John Deere Center. Also in Corten steel, just like the building in Brussels. So the competition, we had a very short time. Was quite difficult we only visited the building once. It seems a very rational building, but there's actually a lot going on which is not so rational. So it was difficult to really get into the original design and understand the building really well. So we had to go with gut feeling, and basically we understood that there was like the entrance hall. We're not going to touch it. It works well, but we did realize there was a lot of potential in this, as you would say. So this is the podium, and on the back is the former parking. And we realized there is a lot of potential in this meeting of the two. It was a very dark and an incomprehensible part of the building. So we said, okay, we have to do one bold move that's going to convince this client of the potential of our project. The brief of the project was quite hybrid. So there would be a hotel in part of the tower, still offices, but also a sports center, co-working spaces, a restaurant. So we felt like it was necessary to open up the building, literally, to get these different functions to inspire each other, to meet each other, and also just to get light into this dark part of the building. So we said we would make a big cut, 21-meter hole in this deepest and darkest part of the building. And the client got on with that, so they agreed, at least at that time. So this was a very important image on that. The bundle we made was quite small, and mainly had only 3 very important images. So this one, then this view up close, which we try to keep more or less intact until today. Of course, this was a bit naive in terms of structure and services, but in a way, it's still the similar opening to what we had more than 2 years ago. So what it does is that all these views were never able to be seen in the original building. And it's really cool to see now, a few weeks ago, that finally these views are starting to become possible. Yeah, and this is another image. This one never didn't survive the outdoor pool. This is actually an existing water overflow, which we thought would be pretty cool to use for a pool, but yeah, this was a bit too ambitious, I guess. Okay, I'm going to quickly take you through all the plans shortly, just to get a little bit of an idea for the plan and also the program. So we're going to have a food court in the podium of the floor on ground level. Then there's some co-working in the front, which is now just office space actually. Sports center in the back, and then here in the middle, this what we call the atrium, which pierces the first 3 levels of the building. Then in the tower, we have a hotel, so these 3 layers of rooms, and then on +2 lobby, restaurant, bar, etc. And on top of that, it's 5 layers of offices, which were highly in demand. Of course, the top ones were rented out first. If you stand on the balcony here, you have this beautiful view on the forest, which is quite amazing place to be. And this thing here is a big auditorium. It's this copper-clad thing in the entity in the lobby, which we don't really touch. We leave intact. We just upholster again. You can see that in the back is this big parking, and here in the center of the building there's the new atrium. +1 again, big atrium, which is a bit of a counterpart to the auditorium, also in size. We really like that in plan. So you have the auditorium, the core, and then this atrium, which is about the same size, and then sports center in the back. +2, this intermediate level. So again, atrium in the center, and then the front part is all hotel spaces, and in the back, sports center. So this was the former restaurant of the Royale Belge. And then this is +3, which is the hotel level. So there's three levels of rooms like this, which they're now executing. They have their own interior architect, so we basically drew the walls between the rooms, and the rest is done by an interior architect. Then after the competition, we continued working on the project, of course. This is a new view in the entrance hall. It's a pity that it's not going to be executed like this. We really love this idea for this sunken seating area that we had at where you enter the building, also as a bit of a generous sign to people coming in the building that they can spend some time here. One of the biggest move we're doing in this entrance hall is creating new openings in the marble walls. So in the current building, this is all just marble, very blind wall. And we're opening that up to create especially to create some light, but also to give some interaction between these office spaces and the restaurant and the people entering the building. And then an updated view of our atrium. This is a bit later on in the process, where we developed it with terrazzo as a terrazzo circle inside the building. So it's a concrete structure clad in terrazzo with a glass curved balustrade and a lot of stainless steel details. And yeah, what we still think is quite nice is that you get all these views from ground floor to +2, and also between these different functions of the building. This is a view on +1. We spent quite some time on designing this ceiling. So in the current building, the ceiling on +2 is actually not continuous. So we had to repair it a bit, this pattern of triangles, and to in a way to hide these repairs, but also to embellish this moment of the center of the atrium. We introduced these stainless steel triangles that slightly protrude from the concrete ceiling. And then yeah, this is going to be, well, not one big roof light, but almost. And already now on site, it's really great to see how much light this brings into the center of this building. Going to show you a little bit of our examples where, well, this is also still part of the atrium, more the design of the walls around it. So we've introduced these curved parts. They will be clad in felt. The thing with this building is it's so specific and everything is so well designed in the original that you can't just add like a plasterboard wall. It just it's not strong enough. So everything you do has to like step up to the power of this original building. So also when you create a new wall, you have to give it material or character. So that's what we also try to do with this curved felt walls. This is an image we used also in a presentation to the city quite a while ago. And what we try to explain to them is how, when we were designing the building, we looked at the original building, what's there, what's the ingredients that we can work with. But sometimes we thought, okay, what does the building initially also aspire to be? So we also looked at Sarin and John Deere a lot. But then even if we couldn't find what we needed there, we started looking at other Sarin references from the same era. That's a bit what we try to bring across with this slide. So these sometimes quite literal references to buildings from that era. So it's the left is it's the wrong credit. This is not the Miller House. This is I think it's Bell Labs in America, and then John Deere in the center, and then this GM Technical Center. Also, yeah, like I said, archive material was really useful. So when we came into the building, it was abandoned already a few years, but AXA redid the interior in the 90s. So for instance, this is a picture on the left of the original ceiling in the core of the building, which was then demolished in the 90s and replaced by a rather ugly ceiling. So when we discovered this image of the original ceiling, we immediately knew this is how we want, at least this should be the inspiration for the ceiling in the core. So we try to make that back the way it was. So apart from our atrium, we didn't had to design that much actually in the new building. One of the biggest things was all the toilets in the tower had to be renewed. Again, they were redone in the 90s by AXA, rather ugly. So we've been looking for how to go about with these toilets, and we came across this designed by Jules Wabbes for a drugstore in Brussels from the 60s, with this beautiful ceiling with lights above it, and we thought, this is what we need for our bathrooms as well. So that's how we came about with this bathroom design, and then we added this mirror above and below the terrazzo sink. Again, we were asked to design a terrace, so a new terrace on the water. And when we had to design this, we thought, okay, let's look at John Deere. There are these very massive balustrades with these big horizontals, and we kind of made an analogous design for our balustrade. Okay, then I'm gonna take you through a few side pictures. This is, I think, February. So here you can see the openings in the marble wall in the lobby that are already made. Very nice to see. The marble comes off quite good, so we're trying to reuse that in other parts of the building. This is the picture you know from the poster. So this is actually the new swimming pool for the sports center that we're standing in. What was really quite nice to discover in the building is that almost everywhere are these waffle ceilings, coffers as we call them. So that's when we learned that they're almost everywhere, we tried to make those visible also where possible. So in the offices, in the podium, in the restaurant, in the podium, we're going to make them visible. They will be sprayed in this acoustical spray. Otherwise, it's too, you need that. But other than that, they will be visible in a lot of places. For instance, like here, this will be the new food courts. There's these coffers everywhere. And another thing we discovered when working on the building is that especially in the podium, the space for lowered ceiling was actually really a lot. So if you look at this column here, for instance, there's this bit strange capital. The ceiling was on this height, so 2.70 meters, and then you had like 1.5 meters of ceiling above it, which we thought it would make sense to use to give more atmosphere to this floor. The floor was also super deep, so yeah, in the end we're quite happy with how this turns out. And then also when I think dismantling started last year, it was really great to see all these ceilings all of a sudden visible. Yeah, it's just a great feature of the building, all these characteristic ceilings. This is, I think, from a few weeks ago. So at the moment, the demolition for this atrium is almost finished. These huge red columns are actually the new columns for the atrium. There will be a concrete column cast around it still, but they had to put these in first to keep the roof up, so that the rest of the atrium could be demolished. Yeah, already it was very great to discover all this natural light coming in through the triangular ceiling. So this year you're standing on +1, looking into the +2 level, so this former restaurant. Another view now from +2 downwards. It's quite spectacular. Also a nice discovery, you can see it a little bit here, is that the light coming through the roof light is very bronze because of the reflections of the facade of the building. Yeah, very curious to see how this develops. Yeah. Deleting something on plan is very easy. Sometimes it's very difficult to do it in reality. This was the former safe, the entrance to the safe of the building. We didn't realize there was that much reinforcement in the wall, so somebody spent a lot of time trying to get that out. Didn't talk about the facade that much. It's a protected building, so this is actually all new. What you see here, the facade the tower facade is now almost done. I think Sjoerd, who I've seen in the audience, knows this very well. So the whole facade of the tower was taken off, and there's a new facade put back, which comes outwards 2 centimeters. to allow for a little bit of thermal insulation. The original building had double glass, but the concrete parts were not insulated. And then I think it's the next one, yeah. So we had this coating on demand glass made to exactly match the original glass color. So that would turn out really well. So we're really looking forward to seeing it without the scaffolding completely in a few weeks. A view from inside out. A little bit of insulation again to improve it. What's interesting about the glass is that with new technologies, they can really improve the way you perceive the outside with this colored glass. So in the original building, it would be quite brownish and dark. And now, for some reason, they can tweak the glass so that the color looks really natural. So there's a lot more blue. It's also supposed to help with your biorhythm. And then some pictures of the original site. We had was quite a struggle to get to know the original building. We didn't have the original architecture plans. We did have the original structural plans. The advantages of that is that the building is almost all structure. So we really had a lot of information, but we really had to design and draw the existing building at the same time. So when we were working on parts, we went on site, measured stuff, and then checked if our design still worked, etc. Went back and forth like that. So we really had to draw that along the way. And then a major help at one point was that we got this huge reservoir of site pictures from the existing construction sites. They're really nice. So here you see the construction of the restaurant roof going on. So the whole building was made in on-site concrete, which is quite amazing because it's actually very narrow beams, like 24 centimeters wide. I think, yeah, here you can see the ventilation integrated, neatly tucked in between all the reinforcement. So it's pretty cool to see everybody smoking on site. This is a picture from the construction of the tower, where you can see really well these huge concrete beams pierced by the metal beams. And again, it's this theme from Saarinen with the doubling of the structure. First the column in between the concrete beams, and then the steel column in between the steel beams. That's then repeated in the office floors as well. Yeah, top floor. The top floor has these very huge beams because it's the only floor that doesn't have columns in the middle, which makes for like a huge meeting room at the end. And this was a tip I'd like to give. There's this is latest number of few numbers back of A+ magazine. I think it's relevant to you because it's a lot about these big buildings that are being transformed, and of course we are featured in there as well. And I think then I'm already on through my images. I hope I didn't go too quick. Yeah.
No, thank you, Wim. It was very complete. Thank you for your thoughts and the lecture.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe there's questions from the audience that arise. If so, you can unmute.
Yeah, again, thank you. Let me try to mute on. Thank you, Wim, for the lecture. Um,
You're welcome.
Thank you for the lecture. Sorry, there was some technical difficulties with feedback on the Zoom because we're all sitting in the same space and we're all listening
Yeah.
to your lecture. But we have only like one laptop on loud, so yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I thought it was a great journey through a apparently incredibly complex building, and I think it was incredibly informative for us to listen how you as an office tackled this building. And I think there were also a lot of similarities in ways of working, also how essentially what is the information that we have available for the National Bank of Belgium. It's kind of the same. We're also looking a lot at the original construction photographs, and we also had to design and simultaneously inventorize the building. And I think what particularly interested me were these photographs that you showed of the construction site, where, for example, there was this big gesture in the lobby of removing the walls, of removing these marble walls, and then these marble plates were seemingly in the space harvested. And then I was wondering how you are using this strategy of harvesting the materials and reusing them in a different place in the building, and how essentially you come up with a strategy like that and how you communicate the strategy.
Yeah. I think in this building, it was a question that was on the table also in the beginning. The cynical part of it is that it's a lot about money. For instance, when you look at the wiring, so a very technical aspect of the building, but the wiring of the building, a lot of the cables you could perfectly reuse, but it's just super cheap to just, it's cheaper to just cut them out, throw away, and do everything new. But we did try, of course, to reuse as much as possible in the building. So the marble was a great one in that sense, because everybody sees it's something precious. And in the building, we also we need quite a lot of new marble. So for instance, there are spaces where there's a corridor we're making where we're cladding it with marble because the corridor never existed. And also because the core of the building is in marble, it really helps navigate through the building. So all the main circulation spaces are marble spaces. So here we had this inventory of, okay, here is where we need the marble. So for instance, this corridor and some also a lot of reparations, because demolition did break a lot of parts as well. So for marble, it was quite easy to reuse it. For other things, it was quite difficult. So for instance, there were very beautiful ceilings in the original building, but they were no longer what the people want in an office space anymore. Carpets, it's all taken out. So direct reuse of stuff in the building is quite limited. We have some door handles we harvested and we'll reuse. But a lot is demolished. Even like the tiles on the roof, the outdoor tiles, we had to do away because they were just too heavy to manipulate anymore. Yeah. So in this sense, I would say it's maybe not the best example of a building where reuse is high on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I was also, you also briefly mentioned this moment where an element like a staircase would move in the building. So you showed this very pretty hanging staircase in the beginning of your lecture, and then you mentioned that it would be demounted and it would essentially go to a different place in the building, no?
Yeah. So in the original building, this staircase, this is the new position. It was also here. And then again, I think in the 90s or maybe earlier, they demolished one of these and threw it away. And yeah, we were from the beginning, we were really pushing like, yeah, this is the most beautiful part of the building. We shouldn't throw it away. So we've been pushing like to demolish it here and to put it back in this old position where literally the places where you can mount it to the roof were still there. So they're doing it as we speak. I think this week or next week they will put it up again. So I'm really curious for that. At one point we were also even pushing for maybe we can use it in the sports center because they also need a stair and the floor levels seem to almost match. But then, yeah, I think that client was difficult to convince of the beauty of this stair, and I think that the reason why the tenants didn't like this stair is because it does take up quite a lot of space. Of course, it's such a big building, then the stair is not that big, I would say. So yeah, we're really happy that it found a new spot.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Lawrence on how nice the lecture fitted with the project that we're working on. There were a lot of similarities. And you briefly touched how you deal architecturally with like the existing legacy of the building and the architect's vision and the reference of Cyrine. So I was wondering if you could elaborate more on this phrase that you had about you cannot just put a plastered wall into this powerful building.
Mm-hmm.
Could you maybe elaborate more on how you dealt with this powerful existing building structure?
Yeah, in that sense, we also learned a bit from maybe the mistakes they made in the 90s. So during the years they started like working on this building and of course a bit Flemish style, just haphazardly ad hoc interventions in the building. And you just see like when like everything in this original building was like it has a material, it has a character, it's very strong presence, and in a way like sometimes even like a standard door size doesn't even make sense because the building is so big. It's like, yeah, we're now looking at this plan, like if sometimes I would like print this on A3 and you start sketching and I think I need a corridor here, and then often if you started like really working on it again, you realize that like the corridor you drew is 5 meters wide. So it's also the scale of the building is quite difficult to grasp. I'm trying to answer your question. Yeah, I think that was just the thing is the presence of this building is so dominant that we had to always try to match that power. Yeah, I think, and it's in a way it was more of a realization we made by walking around in this existing building so much. Yeah, which maybe a funny anecdote is that a lot of the people who worked on this project didn't visit the building. So because we worked with Caruso St. John, for instance, the guy who drew all the details of this atrium, Benjamin, who also took the picture of the poster. He visited, I think, last year, October, for the first time. And even he, although he spent like hours and hours of working on this building, was like still surprised that it was bigger than he expected. Yeah.
Thanks. Are there any more questions, maybe from the people tuning in?
Yeah, I could ask one. So thank you for the lecture. It was quite encouraging to see how the concept is slowly turning into reality. I had a question about the architectural language that you're working with, and throughout the presentation, it's been very clear that it's a language that is respecting what is there and respecting what the references of the project themselves were from Sarin and in the US. My question is really about the identity of the elements that you add, which is the atrium and other interventions that you make. They are very respectful of what comes before it, but do they have their own identity? What is your opinion on how the new interventions speak for themselves, or are they sort of relying on what is around it to just for its architectural quality? What is your opinion on that?
I think for a lot of the building parts, we indeed looked very heavily at references and try to make things which are in a way very obvious, which seem to be look like they should be there. I think with the specifically the atrium, we did go a bit further in the we did try to make our design stand out a little bit from the existing building. Like it's obvious that it's a new intervention. I think people who will I think I need to go. I think people who will see this will realize that this is not a 1970s staircase. I think the whole use of terrazzo is new to the building. In a way, we did also consider to cover this stair in marble, which is then also financially difficult. And I think in a way this grew through discussion, but a lot of the new interventions are making use of stainless steel. So we kind of embrace the stainless steel as a token for to show that it's something new happening in the building. Yeah. So especially with the details of the balustrade and this roof light, the columns, although actually they will be concrete in the final design, but at this moment we were really convinced of like this whole combination of terrazzo, stainless steel, worked just really well with the existing building. But it's a balance and a bit of a trial and error, I guess, how to work this out.
Thank you. Yeah,
I hope that's clear a bit. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I have a question as well. If there is time.
Sure. Yeah.
I can hear myself too. I don't know if it's you or me. Wait 1 second. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Super interesting, also in the context of our studio dealing with the National Bank, and actually we were looking at a lot into office space and working space and how that has been changing in the last few decades according to transformations in patterns of work. And so I was wondering if I was wondering when looking at this building, and also because you bring a lot of Saarinen, you looked a lot at Saarinen and the kind of working space that, for example, the General Motors headquarters kind of proposed was one that I'm aware is sort of kind of this suburban type of office building where you kind of live. You don't need to go to the city center of a city. You kind of live and work on the outskirts, and you always have a certain relationship to landscape and nature. And I wanted to ask if, first of all, if this building also falls into that category a little bit. Yeah. Yes, that's what I thought, but also how, but now in kind of 2020, how that has been changed in a sense that I imagine that the city sort of expanded and reached the position of the building, and how that has been changed. What is the kind of meaning of the city, of the building in the context of the city and its suburbs now, and also if that change of relationship to working space also affected the way you intervened in your design. You, for example, you showed like a big parking space. Is that needed still, or like the kind of things like this that maybe you can mention?
Yeah, I think indeed, especially in when the building was conceived, it was really a trip outside of the city. It's still really at the outskirts, and it's very automobile centered. So indeed, there was a huge parking. I think back then we had to lower the amount of parking spaces, but there were more than 800 spaces back then, and there would still be over 400. In that sense, even, and it's not a picture I've shown, but I think if I should go to the plan, there's like the entrance from the parking to the building is almost as important as the main entrance. So main entrance, of course, here. These stairs here in the parking are also clad in marble. They're very beautifully designed. So in a way, it's almost like one of the most important entrances to the building is via the parking. And that's also something we integrated in this new atrium. The position of the building in the city of Brussels is still also, it's still not going to be naive. Like most people will be going to this building by a car. There is a tram stopping in the front, but it takes 45 minutes to get to Brussels Central Station with the tram. So it's in that sense, it's a bit of it's a very 60s building, very car focused. And on the other hand, people also like this because you are also out of the city quick. So a lot of the offices that will rent this in this building, they think it's an advantage. So they're already located around this building because it's, well, I mean, with the offices where they are now, because they're on the highway quick. At the same time, we are trying to promote getting there by bike. You don't see it on this image, but actually this whole area is bike parking. They will get their own biking entrance. So it is promoted a lot. There is a huge increase in Brussels in people using electrical bikes, which is really making these parts of the city also a lot more reachable all of a sudden by bike. And in that sense, the terrible congestion of Brussels traffic is forcing people on the bike. So that's I guess very good. But yeah, I think that's a bit how the building is positioned at the moment. I hope that answers it a little bit.
Yeah, no, super. it does. I mean, it's yeah, because it's quite interesting to see how all these typologies of offices will kind of what will happen to them in the next 50 years or something, and of course in Europe it's also less of a serious and pressing question than, for example, in the US. Like what will happen of all those Eurosiren headquarters? Who knows? But yeah, thanks for the answer.
Yeah, I suppose if there are no other questions, we can round it up. No?
For sure.
Yeah, Wim, thank you again for the lecture. I can't stress anymore how relevant it was for us.
Okay.
And I think also a lot of people from other studios and other places in the university joined in. So that is super nice to see. So yeah, Wim, thank you again, and maybe we'll do another one soon, and we will let you know.
Okay. I'm also very curious to see what you're gonna do with the National Bank.
Yeah, you're definitely invited to check out the work anytime.
Okay.
Here in Delft.
Nice.
And we're looking forward to seeing the project develop in Brussels. So
it's going to be finished November normally. So it's very, very quick. Yeah.
If there's not too many safe walls with steel in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.